Hello, hello. Welcome to Courage Becomes Her, where we connect and share real life stories. I'll talk with women whom I love and I'm inspired by, women who are experiencing life just like you and me. I'm excited for us to gather together and cultivate confidence, courage, and joy in life and work. Hello, friends. Well, welcome to episode 25. Oh my goodness, so exciting. So if you've been listening in for these last 5 episodes, we've been in a series of taking a leap of faith, and what incredible conversations that we've had. So you know that I started Courage Becomes Her as a means of encouraging, inspiring, equipping, and emboldening each and every one of us to become the courageous women that we were each uniquely created to be, who God intended for each and every one of us to be. And so in these taking a leap of faith conversations, it has just been so lovely to be able to see how that has come about in the lives of Gwen, Sara, Christina, Mary, and Amy, and the different leaps of faith that they have each taken so that they can each confidently, courageously, and joyfully share their gifts to help create community and to remind those around them that you're not alone, that they're not alone, and to really act as catalysts of transformation in each other's lives and in other people's lives, other women's lives who they have the opportunity to connect with and interact with, as well as for you as the friends and community and listeners of Courage Becomes Her. So I'm just so grateful to be able to have that opportunity to hear from each of them and to see them each sharing their gifts in a way that really does do those things, that really does communicate love and confidence and courage and joy to us and to each and every one of our lives. What has been interesting through the conversations with each of them is that as we've learned from them and their leaps of faith, there have been some exposure of some fears and some pressures and some discomforts. And so in today's conversation, I want to just spend a few minutes of chatting through some of those, of what does it look like to tame our fears, to persevere through the unforeseen, and to release pressures. So I'm really excited to talk through each of those for a few minutes today. And so we'll launch into Taming Our Fears. So if there's one thing that I know for sure for us as women and just for humans, period, is that we will have fears. We are going to have fear at different parts of our lives, and different types of fear are going to come into play for us. And you heard some of that through each of the 5 women's stories as they talked about their leap of faith. But 2 in particular that I want to draw on and to call out to us is in episode 20, Gwen talked about just this idea of taming her fears by staying true to herself and really being able to break through those expectations that maybe she had of herself or of cultural expectations of putting yourself out in such a way that in the corporate work life and workspace that can be inauthentic to you and can really place you in a position of being uncomfortable to the point of potentially breaking. And what I really appreciate about what Gwen touched on is just the mental health component of that and how our fears are oftentimes linked to what is going on for us emotionally, what is going on for us mentally, cognitively, and kind of those soul care elements, emotional care, mental health care components that are becoming so much more prevalent in our conversations today. And so for Gwen, being able to tame those fears that she had about making such a big decision, such a leap of faith, was really about breaking the patterns of not honoring her mental health. And so really being able to say, okay, this is what I need for me, even though I am fearful about being a single woman who takes care of herself, provides for herself, and not knowing, exactly how that is going to happen if she takes this leap of faith by leaving, the comfort and the security of a very prestigious corporate role. So I really love how she calls that out to us of not allowing our fears, whatever the root of them may be, to impact us from a mental health standpoint and emotional health standpoint. Sara, in episode 21, talked about her general philosophy of doing it scared. That, again, we all know that we experience fear, and we all know that we cannot do away with fear. Like, fear will never be gone completely. So for Sara, it's coming at it from this mindset of you do it scared, that you press into the discomfort and the unknown and the fear, and you do it anyway. You charge forward in faith, knowing that you're going to be carried through difficult experiences and times. And yep, we're probably going to have breakdowns of some sort. Sara talked about a couple of times that she was just brought to tears because she was so fearful, but she kept persevering and doing it anyway. So I really want us to just think about those two components today of staying true to yourself, your mental health, your emotional health, breaking the patterns of not honoring those in such a way that they come at you from a fear-based perspective, and really being able to, again, honor yourself through those, and then doing it scared, of just being okay with being uncomfortable and having those fears and saying, I'm going to do it anyway. You know that I love books. And so when it comes to this concept of taming our fears, one of my number one top favorite books about fear is called What Women Fear by Angie Smith. And I'll link that in the show notes. But that is one of what I've labeled as the 7 most transformational books in my life, like literally changed my life books. So I'll link Angie's book for us here. So those are my thoughts on taming our fears. Let's talk about persevering through the unforeseen. Okay, so another thing that I 100% know to be true is that we are going to encounter unforeseen things when we take leaps of faith, when we move in a place of courage and bravery and into the unknowns, stepping out of the boat, that we are going to experience things that were not planned and unexpected. And today, I do not have a guest with me today, and that was not planned. I have actually had a guest who has been extremely sick and unable to talk that we had to cancel. I have another guest that was plan B that got stuck in an international city that she had not expected to be in for 5 days and did not have access to technology to be able to, get online together and record an episode together. And another plan C guest who simply just had no space whatsoever on her calendar. So today, this was my pivot of persevering through the unforeseen. And as we, again, look at those leaps of faith, we are going to experience those of figuring out how to be adaptable and to be flexible and to go with the flow of the changes that happen for us, and encountering delays and figuring out, okay, are there ways that we can plan for the unplanned? How do we come up with those plan B, plan C, plan Z, when those things come and happen that just simply were not what we had planned for? And then really placing ourselves in that place of figuring out, okay, how do we deal with the disappointment of that unforeseen? And that is a big component of perseverance, and that I have learned, especially as a Enneagram 1 who wants everything to be so perfect and to really have it all planned out and organized, is just being able to find the beauty in the adaptability, in the flexibility, in allowing whatever is going to happen, and to know that it's for a reason and that it is okay, and that I do not need to overwhelm myself with trying to make it perfect and to try to force it to become something that it just really isn't meant to be. Again, I love books, and a recent book on this topic that I have just found to be so incredibly helpful is called The Cost of Control by Sharon Miller. And I will link that in the show notes as well for us today. Sharon is someone who I've newly followed in the last year or so, and I've really appreciated that book by her, as well as her online presence, and a previous book of hers that I read in 2022 that was also excellent. Another thing that I think about of this just concept overall of persevering through the unseen is Amy in episode 24 talked about just her kind of not necessarily challenges with technology, but really just this idea of how is it that she wants to engage with technology in a way that really helps her to feel comfortable and fits with her ability to learn something new and to, kind of traverse a new territory. And I think that's another piece of just this unforeseen. And as we take these leaps of faith of identifying the areas that maybe are uncomfortable to us, or Mary talked about in episode 23 of things that are scary, and being able to actually just get those out on the table. So I think that's really a part of it, of just, as you're preparing to take your leap of faith, whether it's something that is career-based or something that is more, kind of just a walk of life based general concept in life, like really being able to identify, okay, what are those areas that are the potential unknowns or the potential challenges, or the areas where I'm uncomfortable, or the areas where I need to learn more, the areas where I am scared. So I really appreciate both Amy and Mary's conversation about that and leaning into that in their own journeys. And another book that I would recommend along that topic, and for those of you who follow my book recommendations on social media, you know that I am absolutely in love with this book and have read it. I'm on my third read of it just in the last couple months. I guess I haven't learned that yet, by Shauna Niequist. I am definitely a Shauna fan and have read multiple of her books over the years. One of her other ones is also on my most transformational books list, books that have literally transformed my life. So that's one that you need to get from her as well. So let's talk next about how we release the pressures. So the third thing that I 100% know to be true for when we're taking a leap of faith is that we are going to feel pressure. And by that, I mean usually outside pressure, peer pressure, pressure to conform, pressure to prove yourself, something in the realm of feeling like there is, that people-pleasing component to it. And there are two things in particular that came up in these last couple of conversations that I just want to draw out. The first one is in the conversation with Mary in episode 23. I really appreciated how she drew us back to this place of what is it that was her long-term goal, her desired or envisioned future for she and her family, and what were she and her husband's long-term goals, and they're following their life plan, what it is that they saw for themselves, and really making their decisions based on that long term. I think it's Stephen Covey that talks with the beginning with the end in mind, that it's really focusing on not making that decision of just what is today, but of what is that ultimate long-term goal that you have focused on. And for Mary, again, obviously it was really identifying what is the best for her and her family based on that desired end result, that envisioned future, rather than any sort of pressure of this is what I have to do for pleasing other people or even pleasing the kids necessarily, but just, again, that coming back to that big picture element, which is so important. And then the second one is Christina in episode 22 talked about not allowing money to be the deciding factor. And I really think this is such a big thing for her, especially as she was taking her leap of faith of being a single mom of a child with special needs and really having to focus on making sure that, their needs were met and their financial needs were met and that they were taken care of, but also at the same time, not allowing that need for money to drive her decision and to take her off course of that leap of faith. Just such an important component for us to really, again, be thinking and pull our eyes up of, okay, what is that big picture vision? What is that long-term goal for us? And then being able to put the blinders on and not let other things get in the way of that. And I think that is it's such an important element for us to be able to talk about, like, regardless of what other people think, because especially when we're taking leaps of faith, we know that people are going to give us all the opinions and all the things. They want to be able to share their ideas and their thoughts with us. And it's helpful and good to be able to get counsel and to get input and ideas from others, but not to give into that in such a way that we feel pressured or that we feel like that decision is going to take us off course from the bigger picture, bigger element of it. I think just as a personal example, my husband, Corey, is an author and a writer and has been for the 22 years that we have been together. And one of the main things that he and I have always talked about from the beginning, and that we have felt very confirmed in our faith of God, that God has guided him in this way, is to just let go of what it is that people think of his writing and to be able to go all in on the style and the message that he knows has been given to him, regardless of what that means for the number of sales of his books or, just any external reward, so to speak, that could or would come if he were to not stay true to himself. So definitely something that has been a part of our conversation for many, many years. Okay, the book that I love for this topic of releasing the pressures is Nothing to Prove by Jenny Allen. An absolutely phenomenal book. Again, it is on my list of one of the most life-changing books for me, one of the 7 books that literally changed my life. So I'll link that here in the show notes as well. So I want to thank you so much for listening to these first 5 conversations and episodes about taking a leap of faith with Gwen, Sara, Christina, Mary, and Amy. And yes, we will be back with another guest next week of Taking a Leap of Faith. And I am really excited for you to join us for that conversation. But in the meantime, make sure that you are looking at how you can be taming your fears, persevering through the unforeseen that might be happening for you, and really seeing the pressures that might be coming your way through other people's opinions and just speaking into your potential leap of faith in your life. So thanks so much. Friends, super quick, just one more thing before we close out this episode entirely today. I do want to ask you just once again, if you will please rate and review Courage Becomes Her on whatever podcast platform that you are using to listen to this. As you heard me talk about in the conversation with Amy in last week's episode, in episode 24, I talked about how I'm not listening or paying attention to the analytics. And so I have no idea if 5 women or 5,000 women are listening to these episodes. But what I do know is based on the ratings and the reviews that is how we help to spread the word about the podcast and to really help encourage other women through these incredible stories of the women that I love and am inspired by. So I would love for you to just take 5 minutes right this minute as soon as this episode ends and just hit that 5-star button and then put in a couple sentences about what this podcast means to you as a review. It would really mean a lot to me. Thanks so much. What an honor to help you to cultivate confidence, courage, and joy in your life and work. Thank you so much for inviting me to journey with you. I look forward to being back with you next week, where we'll hear another story from a woman whom I love and am inspired by and look forward to learning from.